You're tuning in to the Raised by Rentals program. This podcast will contain strong language and spoilers for decades-old media properties. Join us. Welcome, everybody. This is the podcast where we examine pop culture franchises of the VHS era and improv news stories, because we're wheezing the juice, buddy, to imagine how we might improve our favorite movies, TV, and games. I'm Josh.
I'm Mike.
And we were raised by rentals. Mike, gobble gobble, motherfucker.
Gobble gobble, bitches. I was not expecting the Pauly Shore reference so early on.
I cracked myself up and barely finished it. Oh, man.
Oh, damn.
Yes, we're back after our Halloween special for our Thanksgiving special. And, of course, we'll have a Christmas special coming up later in the year as well. But for now, we're going to keep the spooky train rolling, just like we've been promising for the last couple of months, and just focus on, horror-themed episodes all the way to the end of the year. So we're going to do something a little interesting. It is spooky themed in a way, but I think it's going to be pretty fucking bizarre. And so we're going to do our Thanksgiving special, but we're also going to do a love letter to one of the VHS era's probably most undeserving stars.
Yes.
but also a much loved icon, and that is the one and only Pauly Shore.
The Weasel. Yeah, so this is going to be weird.
It's going to be fucking weird, yeah. And we're going to get into the weirdness, but just a little preamble about like kind of where we're going to go with Pauly Shore. Because it's Thanksgiving season, I was thinking about what are the Thanksgiving movies that we watch every year? Because, we talked a lot about Halloween movies. We watch a lot of spooky movies around, October. And then there's also Christmas movies that a lot of people watch every single year. They have their holiday classics. But I feel like Thanksgiving is one of those U.S. holidays that's a little weird. It's kind of stuck in the middle. Like, people in my neighborhood are already decorating everything for Christmas, and it's like Thanksgiving kind of gets lumped into Christmas. I think it's like sort of like a pseudo holiday, and It doesn't really get the respect it deserves when it comes to Thanksgiving based movies, right?
Totally agree. I honestly only have two that I watch every year, and that's Planes, Trains, and Automobiles and Blood Rage.
Blood Rage, okay.
One of my favorite Thanksgiving horror movies, the one that annoys Maurice.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, pretty soon we're going to get the real Eli Roth Thanksgiving movie that was, the actual realization of what was originally a parody trailer in Grindhouse that we fleshed out into a full-length movie with Michael O'May last year for the 2022 Thanksgiving special. So for me, I really only had one for the longest time, which was Plane, Trains, and Automobiles. And it took me a while, for some reason, to realize that my favorite Pauly Shore movie is also a Thanksgiving movie, which is Son-in-Law. Mm-hmm. I love Son-in-Law. I say my favorite Pauly Shore movie because I do like Encino Man better, but he's a supporting cast character.
Yeah, it's not his starring role.
Yeah, exactly. When it comes to starring Pauly Shore movies, I do think that Biodome is grossly underrated and funny as hell.
I agree. I definitely agree.
I definitely quote that movie more than I should. All these decades later, like, can you cork it?
God, that fucking movie. I haven't seen it in so long. I gotta rewatch it. I know.
And I actually do enjoy In the Army Now as well with David Alan Grier and what's her name? Lori Petty. I think that's actually, again, better than people give it credit for. But Son-in-Law was, I think, his shining achievement as a starring vehicle. It's a great movie. It holds up. It's got a great fucking cast. And I still watch it every year. And like I said, when I said it holds up, I legitimately believe that. I think the fashion, the acting, the storytelling, hell, even the music is kind of timeless. Like, it doesn't feel like a dated 90s movie. It's certainly a 90s movie, but it doesn't feel like a lot of 90s movies feel when you're like, oh, honey, like this didn't age well,
Yeah. Yeah, I've definitely had that experience more than I care to admit, because it's like, oh, I love this movie. Oh, wait, why did I love this movie?
Yeah. Or like you're like, I still enjoy it, but it's ooh, like the soundtrack, the
Hmm.
fashion, like their really lame attempt at trying to think like what would be like edgy or like on the cutting edge of technology. It's like they get it all wrong.
Zoom, enhance, zoom,
Exactly.
enhance.
Well, I think of Hackers. Hackers is my perfect
Mm.
example because I
Hmm.
absolutely fucking love that movie. I love it. I watch it repeatedly all the time, at least once a month, like legit. I love that movie, but it is painful. It is like cringe inducing when they talk
Oh
about the
yeah.
technology because even at the time it was kind of stupid and like fake, but all these years later, and I work in technology, so when I hear these characters talk, it's literal gibberish.
Yes. And no, I totally agree. I love Hackers, but yeah, it's dated as fuck.
For sure. So here's what we're going to do today, and I gotta give a little bit of background. So I know not everyone likes the long wind ups to the actual storytelling, but this one I think needs it
Yeah,
because it's
it
gonna be weird.
absolutely does.
Originally, my idea was for us to do a Thanksgiving special where we just did a son-in-law riff of some kind. We say, hey, let's bring Pauly Shore. Like I said, he's like an icon of the VHS era, super famous at the time. One of those dated 90s things we were just talking about.
Your PC got harshed, right? Because your system heap set the wrong parameter. So I toasted the data directory, tweaked the PRAM, and reglazed your subroutine.
And I thought it would be perfect, and we could do a son-in-law 2 or make it like a remake where it was a horror movie or something. Like let's riff on it, but it wasn't really coming together. It was just kind of a one-dimensional idea.
Mhm.
And then as we were talking, one of us said, I don't remember, who, because all the ideas get tangled together, but one of us said, hey, what if we did a National Lampoon's Thanksgiving Vacation? Because, of
Mhm.
course, Christmas Vacation is one of those classic holiday movies that I, for one, definitely watch multiple times every December.
Oh hell yeah.
And so that seemed like it could be fun. And so because of that, I had to go back and watch the 2015 Vacation prequel. Is that what it is? Like it's kind of a remake, but it's also definitely a sequel, even though it has the same title as the first movie.
Yeah, it's like it's that legacy sequel that they've been doing for a while, where they're like, let's pass the torch to a new generation, but we're still gonna have the old generation, and it's gonna be connected, but this is the new one. It's kind of like what they did with the new Scream movies, where they're like, all right,
Yeah,
Scream 4 kind of ended it, and Scream 5 we're just gonna call Scream, but we're gonna do a legacy sequel, and we're gonna knock off some of the old characters and bring in a bunch of new characters. It's the same concept. So yeah, with the 2015 Vacation, it was totally a requel.
yeah, I agree. And it turned out to be a really good movie. I loved it. I like all the
Yeah,
vacation movies. I
same.
probably like it more than I should because they're not all that great.
The only one I'm not crazy about is Christmas Vacation 2, where
Yeah,
Eddie goes to an island. That's a little weird.
we just pretend that one doesn't exist. That's
Exactly.
Chevy Chase isn't in that one, so never mind. you
Yep.
know, and ironically, I think actually the original National Lampoon's Vacation from '83 is my least favorite movie in the series. I know a lot of people don't like Vegas Vacation, but I thought it was awesome. I thought they did a great job with that.
See, I agree. I do love Vegas Vacation, but see, for me, flip the two. Like Vegas is my least favorite, although I still love all the movies. So it's like it's kind of like with the Marvel movies where I'm like, I have certain ones that are lower down, but I still enjoy all of them that I've seen. So it's
Yeah,
the same
same
kind of
here.
concept.
I even like Thor 2 and Iron Man 3. Yeah, about half of it's good, so
Yeah,
we'll give it a pass.
exactly.
um, but yeah, so I love Christmas Vacation. I love European Vacation, but I love them all. So I definitely was stoked about doing a continuation of that John Hughes series, but I couldn't get Pauly Shore out of my head. Like it was like as soon as it came up, it was like, we have to do a Pauly Shore episode, even if it isn't this spooky season, even if we save it for season 3 coming in 2024. But we have to do something with Pauly Shore, and I couldn't get it out of my head. So as we were talking, bouncing the ping pong ball of ideas back and forth, somehow we just kept like rolling up new and new layers to this weird meta onion that we're gonna get into and try to peel apart, to mix my metaphors. And it got so weird that I knew instantly that we had to do it. No matter how hard it was going to be to figure out, we had to, because something this weird just has to exist.
I totally agree.
Okay, so the idea here is that we're going to do the next installment in the vacation series. So we're going to do National Lampoons, or actually, it's not called National Lampoons anymore. They dropped that with Vegas Vacation. So I guess this is what, the sixth movie, and it'll be the Thanksgiving Vacation. I do think we should do that. We should stick to Thanksgiving Vacation as kind of a callback to Christmas Vacation,
Mhm.
and let's basically just pretend that this is a movie that is getting made in Hollywood. It's going to have the same like writer directors, the same cast. Ed Helms coming back as Rusty with his family, and we're gonna like literally just shoehorn Pauly Shore in there.
Yep.
um, and it's gonna get real fucking weird. So I feel like I kind of need to explain the angle before we get into it, because I feel like if I don't, and we're just like, oh hey, by the way, you forgot this like screenplay framing device, it's gonna get like hard to follow. So do you agree? Should we just kind of like explain, hey, here's the approach that we're taking?
Yeah, I think that would be the easiest way, because then if we just start jumping into this, I think it might get a little hard to follow.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. So I wrote a bunch of notes down about Pauly Shore and who he is and the Vacation series and all that, but I'm just going to skip it and assume that anyone listening to the show knows, what these are. Like, who Pauly Shore is. You've probably seen Son-in-Law and Encino Man. The Vacation series. So we're going to kind of skip through that, but I do want to talk about the third major element a little bit, which is the screenwriter Charlie Kaufman.
Yep.
And this is where it's like, if you're listening, and if I were listening to this show and not a part of it, I would have been like, the fuck, how does
Yeah.
how does Charlie Kaufman come into this? And so what happened was, as we were bouncing ideas back and forth trying to figure stuff out, it was like, hey, Son-in-Law 2, National Lampoon's Thanksgiving Vacation, like, well, what else? Like, what's something else we can do, maybe with Pauly Shore? And the idea of like being John Malkovich, except it's being Pauly Shore, came up.
Yep.
And again, I couldn't get that shit out of my head. Like, oh, that's so good, but I don't know that there's enough there to do a whole episode. It's kind of a one note idea of like, haha, that's funny. It would be hilarious to kind of do being John Malkovich too, being Pauly Shore. and that would be,
Everybody's just the Weasel.
yeah. Oh god, yeah. There's that one scene where he like falls inside his own head, and then everybody's munching on some grindage.
Malkovich, Weasel.
Weasel. Oh god. Oh, maybe I don't know. Maybe there was an episode there, but but Charlie Kaufman is my favorite screenwriter in Hollywood. I think movie for movie, he has the best track record of writing some weird ass shit that is like critically acclaimed, really fun to watch. So he did being John Malkovich. He wrote that screenplay. He wrote adaptation. I think probably most famously, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. That's probably his biggest movie. I think his most critically acclaimed movie that I personally don't fucking understand the love for is Synecdoche, New York. But man, film critics,
I've never seen it.
yeah, film critics and like film students just, get all hot and bothered thinking about Synecdoche, New York. But like, it's got Philip Seymour Hoffman in it, which is why I watched it, because I love him. But the whole time I'm just like, I don't know, dude, this is stupid. But anyway, but he's known for wacky approaches to screenplays, these weird, meta textual and meta fictional layers to things. And so what I immediately thought of after being John Malkovich was, no, not being John Malkovich. That's the wrong Charlie Kaufman movie to kind of imitate. The right Charlie Kaufman movie to imitate is Adaptation, which is also my favorite one of his. And this is a wacky movie in and of itself. So if you haven't seen Adaptation, or you don't remember, it's a movie where Nicolas Cage stars as Charlie Kaufman, the screenwriter, as well as his own identical twin brother, who doesn't exist in real life. And it's a screenplay about Charlie Kaufman getting a job to adapt a book called The Orchid Thief by Susan Orlean, and he can't figure out how to adapt it because there's not really much of a plot. And so instead he writes a screenplay about himself trying to adapt this book into a movie, and then all of the weird thoughts that he has along the way. And he just introduces all these weird like fictional elements, like his made up twin brother who's also a screenwriter for some reason. But then there's also real people like the cast of Being John Malkovich, who shows up at one point because he's like on the set of that movie, and Robert McKee, the writer of Story, probably like the most famous like screenwriting how-to book out there, that Brian Cox plays him in the movie. So there's all these weird layers of like, yes, he really did adapt this book that is a real book. I read it. I actually think it's pretty good. But then he was like, this is a boring movie, so I'm just going to put a bunch of wild shit. And it becomes a movie about the act of screenwriting more so than it is about this orchid book.
Right.
And so I just really like the layers of and the mixture of like real life stuff with these fictional things. And sometimes you can't tell what is real or not. I literally had to go and look up and see if he had a twin brother or not when it was over, because I'm like, really? So yeah, so here's the idea. We're basically going to pretend that you and I are Charlie Kaufman. So that's the first meta layer. And we are writing a screenplay about a IRL event that happened where Pauly Shore tried to be involved in a Vacation sequel and things went terribly wrong. Except what happened in real life wasn't that exciting. So Charlie Kaufman like punched up the script and introduced a bunch of like bizarre ass things. So in our version of Pauly Shore trying to make a comeback and be in the Vacation sequel, like things are going to go really strangely.
They're gonna go horribly bad.
Yes, exactly. So it's a weird like layer. Like it's like we're pretending to be a real guy, pretending to write a screenplay about a real event that wasn't actually a real event, but there are like real actual actors involved trying to make a movie that like could actually happen, but we're just making it up. And then we're going to throw in like weird curveballs. So it's like there's so many layers to the onion that it sounds confusing, but I'm up for the challenge. I think it's going to be fun.
Yeah, I think this it's a weird setup to a story, but the story will be a lot of fun to do.
Yeah,
So
100%. So because of all the layers, we had to work out some of the details ahead of time. But I think once we kind of get into it, there's still plenty of room for the improv of the actual events that are going to occur. So.
Oh yeah, to be fair, we didn't talk at all about the actual story. We just talked about the framing device.
Yeah.
So
exactly. So speaking of which, I'll shut up. I kind of explained, our approach to this, but why don't you explain, Mike, what's the framing device? Like, what are we going to do to kind of kick this off?
okay, so yeah, we want to have this be an actual sequel to Vacation. So like you had mentioned, we're going to have the same actors returning. So, Ed Helms will be originally cast as Rusty Griswold. We'll get to that. But he'll be also playing himself. So everyone that's in this movie will be playing both the character and themselves. So obviously Christina Applegate will come back as Debbie. The kids, Skylar Gizondo and Steele Stebbins will come back as James and Kevin. Chevy and Beverly D'Angelo will come back as Clark and Ellen. Chris Hemsworth and Leslie Mann will come back as Audrey and Stone. And then we'll have the two directors, John Francis Daley and Jonathan Goldstein, playing themselves. And of course, we have Pauly Shore. So the concept here, like just to kick us off, so they're making a sequel, like we said, and John Francis Daley is very much like us. He is a nerd. He's, for people who don't know, he was in Freaks and Geeks. He's directed a shitload of stuff. He's really like he's a nostalgia nerd. So of course he's going to love stuff like Pauly Shore. He grew up and he's our age, so he grew up in the same era. So yeah, he's gonna have the same fuzzy feelings we have for stuff like Encino Man and Son-in-Law. So he wants to cast him in this movie. So Pauly Shore, as we all know, is not a very prolific actor at this point in his career. He's barely in anything. So he gets a call from his agent that, they're going to be doing a new Vacation movie and the director wants him. And he gets all excited thinking like, oh shit, they recast Rusty all the time. Maybe I'm going to be Rusty Griswold. So he goes down to get in the movie and he's got like some stupid little bit part. And it's just like not at all what he was expecting. And of course, he's trying to steal the show. So like
Yeah.
whatever the scene is, like maybe he could be like the drug dealer for one of the kids, like because we talked about this taking place a few years down the road. So like what's his name? James would have been like away at college by this point.
Mm-hmm.
So like maybe he's like Pauly Shore is the drug dealer who deals to his roommate, because James was very straight laced and very much like Rusty.
Yeah.
So yeah, so maybe Pauly would have this stupid little role where he's just playing the Weasel, but he's like this old man now playing the Weasel.
Yeah, he's like this old stoner. It's kind of like when you get like Tommy Chong to show up in a movie for a cameo. There's a certain generation that's like, fuck yeah, Cheech and Chong. And so he just randomly shows up in movies as like the old stoner who's like, the weed hookup. And it's like, that's kind of what Pauly Shore would be here. Yeah, I totally agree.
Well, he'd be the Chong character from that '70s show.
Yeah, exactly. That's the perfect connection. Yeah. So let's slow down a little bit, because again, you kind of set up the framing device. So I think we've laid all the groundwork we need to lay in terms of where we're going to go. So let's kind of slow down a little bit and like, okay, we don't have to go through every single scene in our like fake screenplay, but yeah, Act 1, Scene 1, like you said, would be John Francis Daley, or it's the real Pauly Shore, wherever he is living in Hollywood now. He's, because this is also the fictionalized version of these real people. Like, I don't really know where Pauly Shore is living or what he's doing on a day-to-day basis, but, we could kind of pull like a Cobra Kai and have Pauly Shore be down on his luck somewhere. Like, we open up on, Pauly Shore in Hollywood, and, you think, oh, here's this celebrity, he's going to wake up with the dawn and walk out to the Hollywood Hills. And then you find out that he's actually like, picking up dog shit in like some rich person's backyard or something,
Dude, I got it. Okay. This just follow me for a second. So we like you said, we open with Pauly Shore. Let's have him be in a fancy upscale restaurant, right? So we're in LA, we're in Hollywood. We see this big, nice, fancy restaurant. People are all having lunch and all that. We see Pauly sitting there at a table by himself, eating, drinking his coffee and all that. And, have the waitress come up and be like, was everything to your liking? He's like, oh, it was delicious. It was wonderful. And she's like, I'll go get you your check. And he looks around and he fucking ditches. He just does a dine and dash, like takes off running. So we see that like he's trying to still live large, but he's poor as fuck.
Oh, that'd be awesome. And then we can get like an actual celebrity cameo, like Seth Rogen or somebody who's like, hey, there he goes, that guy Dine and Dashed or whatever, or
he's like Dine and Dasher, doesn't laugh.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, holy shit, is that Pauly Shore? Hey everyone, Pauly Shore just Dine and Dashed this, And then you have like a bunch of like John Francis Daley's like celebrity friends like Robert De Niro or whatever, like they all turn their heads, It's like the whole restaurant is full of like A-list stars, and Pauly Shore is just like running away,
Oh my god, I already love it. Oh my god. So he takes off. He's like, maybe like the bus boy chase him. He's like some big buff dude like chasing after him, and Pauly's just like running through the streets. Makes a mess of himself. Maybe like trips in a puddle, gets like all dirty, nasty. Eventually, he goes back home. He gives the guy the slip, goes home, and we see he lives in like a tiny little like studio apartment or something, like something really like small and cheap. And then this is where we could have his agent call him.
Yeah, we got to do the cliche too, where he like checks his mail and it's like Bill, and he's just
overdue.
Exactly. And then he sees one where it was like, like you may be pre-approved, and he's like, oh hell yeah, rips it open, but it's like one of those like fake credit cards that was just like, apply online. He's like, damn it, like
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. And then and he's from the 90s, so it's gonna be real old school. And it would be really funny if in his apartment he had all of the movie posters from like his own old movies. Like he's like really living in the past,
Yes. He's got like one of the standouts of him as in his like VJ days, like standing there.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And he's got like, framed photos of him and like Brendan Fraser or whatever. And like, he's got a fucking like jury duty poster that's like, half fallen off the wall,
Oh my God. I forgot about that movie.
Yeah. And again, because he's old school, he's going to have like an actual old school answering machine with like cassette tapes in it,
Of course.
So he can walk in and he can like push the button and it's like, you have, 3 messages. And the first one is, some bill collector. He skips that one. And, and the second one is like his landlord. He's like, it's already the 7th, whatever. Skip that one. And then of course that third one is going to be like, hey, Polly, like, you don't know me. It's John Francis Daly, whatever. And he maybe he goes to skip it. And then, John Francis Daly is like, yeah, you make me, on the tape before Pauly Shore gets to skip it, he's like, hey, you may not remember me, but I directed that Dungeons and Dragons movie and I wrote Spider-Man Homecoming, me. And then he's like, oh shit, this is a real Hollywood guy.
Yep. Yeah, and then so he gets like he does the whole thing, like he listens to the message and it's like, I have a part for you in my newest movie, give me a call back, or have your agent call my agent, that type of thing. And then we would just like let's do a hard cut to them meeting. So like we see like Pauly meeting in the office with John Francis Daly and Jonathan Goldstein, and like maybe Jonathan Goldstein is kind of like, oh, this fucking guy, and like John Francis Daly is like totally fanboying, like, oh my god, it's Pauly Shore, like you're the Weasel, like just super excited.
Oh yeah, totally. Let's just totally play it up, and he can even have him be like, Pauly Shore just walks in like, regular clothes, like he's wearing like a, I don't know, like a Baja and like khakis or something,
Of course he's wearing a Baja.
Of course it is.
Oh my god, I was not expecting that. I was drinking my coffee when you said that. Oh shit.
Oh man. But John Francis Daly is gonna be like, oh yeah, like here's the fucking Weasel, like you said. But then he's like, hey man, where's your like, purple scarves and stuff, and then Pauly Shore is gonna be like, yeah, like that was kind of a character I used to play, the Weasel, he's like, yeah, dude, you're the Weasel, munching on some grindage, and then Pauly Shore is just like, okay, like,
I fucking love it. Oh my god, I am picturing this like playing out, and I'm in tears. Holy
I love
frick.
it. Oh god, yeah. So this is awesome, right? Yeah. To your point, they sit down, they talk. John Francis Daly is like nerding out, so we have to make sure that we remember that he's not going to be very clear. It's going to be like, yeah, man, I got this part for you. It's so cool in my new movie. But like at no point is he going to mention that it's a small part. And because he's like nerding out, and Pauly Shore maybe is like, he's both excited for a working role, but also kind of like, okay, I need to get away from these like drooling fanboys. So there's no like due diligence of asking. It's kind of like, what I mean? We're kind of set this up where the excitement of the moment, by the time Pauly Shore leaves, it's gonna be like, fuck, I didn't even ask what the part was, or he's gonna like leave with this misassumption that, oh shit, yeah, like I got the starring role.
Right. Well, it should be something like, it should be something like where he's like, okay, so the part pays like, $1,000 a day, something like that. Like he, kind of gives him the idea of like, this is going to be you're going to get paid per, or maybe not $1,000. That's like extra money. So like maybe it's something like $5,000 a day or something like that. He's like, so Pauly's like, oh shit, this is a paycheck added to, like, I'm gonna get paid. Like, how many days is a shoot gonna be? Like, he's all excited, like, because this is a guy who's completely down on his luck to the point where he has to dine and dash and skip out on bills. So suddenly he's got a job that's like $5,000 a day, and he's gonna take it. Little does he know he's only gonna be on set for one day. So it's like, yeah, it's a paycheck, but it's a small paycheck. So yeah, so like the whole time, like you said, John Francis Daly is he's being aloof because he's excited. Like, he's not going into all the details. He's just talking about like, oh, you're going to be great for the role. Like, as soon as I wrote the role, I had you in my head, and blah blah blah. And the whole time we could have Jonathan Goldstein being the down to earth, like the straight man, like, so Pauly and Jonathan and John Francis Daly are getting all excited, and Jonathan's like, all right, so you have to be at set at 8 a.m. tomorrow, just like kind of trying to keep it all grounded, so we could play that back and forth between the two, the fanboy and the straight man.
Yeah, that's perfect.
So we do the thing where we see Pauly Shore is excited. It's like his redemption song. Like, he goes home, he's all happy, and we should have one little joke like where he's walking back from the bus, like swinging his arms, all excited, and then we just hear, "Hey, asshole!" and he turns around and there's the busboy, and he just starts chasing him.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, we gotta like cast this busboy again. It's got to be like this thing where we're making a movie about the real Pauly Shore and the real John Francis Daly and like the real Seth Rogen and Robert De Niro in the restaurant, but at the same time there's got to be some actor who's like working there as a busboy. But yeah, it's like some big dude, like that guy that plays Jack Reacher or something, like.
Or what about Ethan Suplee now?
Oh yeah,
Because dude is
like
a beast.
Yeah, dude, that'd be so cool if if Ethan Suplee.
Plus, I love Ethan Suplee, so.
Me too, and John Francis Daley would love him too. He would absolutely love that guy because he's like a Kevin Smith like View Askew fan. You know
hell
he is.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that'd be so. It's Ethan Suplee like acting as like a busboy. Like he's not playing himself. So that's the weird.
Right.
Again, we're kind of messing with like the mixing up real life with the fictional life. But that'd be funny. Yeah, I get this picture where it's like. He's doing that voice like from Mallrats when he's like, when do I get to see the sailboat? Exactly. Or it's like, over there, that's just a guy in a suit. It's like that voice.
Yes.
Oh man, that's so
my
fun.
God. And I'm sorry, but the idea of Ethan Suplee running full force straight at me is terrifying.
God. Right? Yeah, dude, it's fucking gigantic, but and ripped now.
Right.
Yeah, so that would be a really fun way to kind of end that scene. Ethan Suplee runs after him, but he just kind of whoops out of there. But then you would cut to like, okay, it's the next morning. Pauly Shore is going to show up on set. He's going to come in, and maybe they told him it was like the new Vacation movie, but maybe when he shows up, he's going to like see, oh hey, Christina, like how's it going? Remember me? Like Pauly from back in the day, because Pauly Shore I think actually was on an episode of Married with Children at one point, so they.
Yep.
I just looked it up. He definitely was. So that's cool. So of course, she's gonna barely remember him, and whatever. He's gonna kind of go through and glad hand to people like, "Hey, what's up, Sky? We haven't met, but like, what's up?" And kind of like pat him on the head like he used to do with like kids in the old movies,
Right.
And so we're gonna see the whole cast, and then Ed Helms is there, but he sees him last. Like Pauly Shore is all excited, and then as he's like making a beeline toward John Francis Daley to kind of go find out where he needs to do, he sees Ed Helms, and Ed Helms just kind of like looks at him briefly, like dismisses him with his body language, but you see Pauly Shore's face fall, like, wait, hang on a second, like I thought I was going to be the star of this movie, like, you can see the wheels turning in his head. It's like, what the hell is that Ed Helms doing here? I thought like, isn't this for me?
Mm-hmm. What if we like? I love this. What if we have something like we see the the chairs where it's like Rusty, Debbie, that kind of thing, and like he sits down in the Rusty chair next to Christina Applegate and starts talking to her, and he's all getting comfortable, and then we have Ed Helms like put his hand on his shoulder, be like, you're my chair. And have him then he like turns
nice.
and sees him, and he's like, and and so not only is it like. Because then Ed Helms would have a reason to be like, dude, what the fuck? But also it would embarrass the shit out of Pauly, where it's like everyone, he just made this big spectacle out of like, hey, how are you? Like, wheeling and dealing kind of thing, only to be embarrassed in front of the whole cast.
Perfect. Yeah, I love it. That's perfect.
So yeah, so we could have him do the thing like where he goes and he goes to talk to John, and he's like, hey, I maybe I misunderstood, but I thought that you wanted me for this movie. And he's like, yeah, no, we have the perfect role for you. And he's like, so I'm not playing Rusty? And maybe we could have like Jonathan Goldstein like laugh into his coffee, be like, no, like, excuse me. And he goes, and maybe John Francis Daley could be like, we told you paid $5,000 a day, right? Like that's not leading role money, kind of like one of those, almost like to show how out of touch Pauly Shore is with modern Hollywood,
Yeah.
And then so now he's bummed, and he takes a look at the script. Like maybe they're like, didn't you read the script we emailed over? And he's like, oh, I don't check my email. Like, that kind of thing. Like, again, he's stuck in the 90s. Like,
we can even do like an Edgar Wright thing where it's like you suddenly cut and you see John Francis Daley like typing out his email address to send to Pauly Shore. He's like reading it off of like an old business card or something, and it says like _Weasel 23456 at AOL.com.
Yes. I love it. The real Weasel.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh my god. So yeah, so like then we he takes a look at the script, and we see like we do like the close up, and we see like Pauly Shore, and then in parentheses drug dealer, that type of thing, and have him be like, oh. And then we shoot the scene, like maybe have the movie within the movie, where we see what is it? James, played by Skylar Gazando. We see James sitting there in his dorm room, like playing his little guitar. But maybe it's still, maybe like the new one says, "I assure you, I have a penis." You know?
Yes.
Like his little brother, even though he wasn't picking on him anymore, was like doing sneaky shit, you know, because he's moving out of the house.
Oh man,
So,
I love it. That's amazing.
so he's sitting there in his dorm playing guitar, and like his roommate is like this total stereotypical stoner guy, you know, just sitting there, you know, he's got his headphones on, like listening to some records or whatever. Knock at the door, and you know, James goes to answer it, and it's Pauly Shore as the dealer. You know, so we get the whole like drug deal scene where he like sells the roommate some weed. He offers James a bunch of shit, and James like, no, because you know he's the straight laced kid. So we see that James is still a little nerdy. But,
for sure. And of course, no, I was gonna say Pauly definitely has to like when they answer the door, he's got to be like, "What's up, buddies?" You know.
Of course.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, for sure. Skylar, you know, James is gonna, like you said, he's gonna be like, "Oh no, none for me," you know, because he's like real fucking nervous, like you said, and you know, maybe his like, you know, stoner roommate is like, "Oh, come on, man, loosen up a little bit. Like, aren't you going home for Thanksgiving this weekend, man? You gotta like, you know, like you don't want to face that shit, you know, straight or whatever, you know." And it's like,
Yeah.
throw a little story in there, like, "Oh, okay, cool, like that's what this is about," you know. He's going home for Thanksgiving.
Right, and that's perfect because then we can explain to the audience within the audience within the audience. Now we can explain to the audience, you know, that's exactly what's happening. So yeah, so we would do that scene, and now we cut back to the making of the movie, right? So we see like, you know, Rusty, or maybe we don't see Rusty yet. We see Debbie like getting stuff together at the house. Maybe she's like cleaning or whatever, and we're gonna cut to, you know, Rusty scene like coming home from a flight. So we have them setting that scene up, and like Pauly kind of offset, like, you know, looking a little bummed, like that was my big role, you know. And then have maybe like Ed comes up to him and he's like, you know, it's like, don't feel so bad. You know, maybe you'll get your big break one day, you know, just kind of fucking with him. And have, you know, Pauly get kind of pissed. And then Ed be like, who the fuck do you think you're talking to, you fucking has-been? And like we see that Ed is like a real dick. Like
Yes.
in real life, he's a total, kind of like how Michael Cera was in This Is the End, just like a total asshole.
Oh yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah, and just have him, you know, have Ed Helms be like, you know, what, you know, you did your scene, and now you can weasel on home to Hollywood or whatever, wherever you know, 90s leftovers go to die or whatever, you know.
Exactly. You know, and maybe we'll have like, you know, Pauly get kind of pissed at him and be like, get the fuck out of my face, and like shove him. So now Ed gets kind of pissed and like follows him. So the two of them, I want to get them away from everybody else, and just like have Ed like relentlessly picking on Pauly, just like being like a total bully, you know, just fucking with him. And eventually Pauly turns and knocks his ass out, only it goes horribly wrong. So my thought here, I don't know if we want to do this in like, maybe it's not, maybe they're not on set. Maybe, you know, Pauly's sitting in like his dressing room, just kind of like sadly looking at himself in the mirror. And that's when Ed comes up behind him and claps him on the shoulder and says his little comment. The two of them start to argue in the dressing room. Pauly cold-cocks him. Ed falls over and cracks his head on the dressing table, or on the counter. And like, so he, like, Ed dies.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, for sure. Oh, I kind of love that. I was thinking, you know, of doing something where it was like, you know, they would go off like in the woods to like smoke a joint or whatever. But no, I like this better. Where yeah, Ed Helms is gonna kind of come to gloat. You know, he's such a dick that he's gonna come into Pauly Shore's little dressing area just specifically just to gloat, and then, you know, maybe he's like, oh, I gotta go back to my like big air conditioned trailer while you're over here in like this broom closet or whatever. Like it's some. And I think it would be interesting too, because he probably wouldn't have like a whole trailer, but if there was some kind of out of the way, you know, like an old storage room or something, and that's right. Where, you know, they're having Pauly Shore like get ready. So yeah, when Ed Helms comes in, yeah, he's gonna, and maybe it wasn't intentional, you know, maybe they're just pushing each other, you know, back and forth, and Ed Helms is like, look, motherfucker, and pushes him, and then, you know, Pauly just, you know, whatever, freaks out, like maybe all the tension and the stress and everything just gets to him, and now this fucking guy is picking on him, so he just like I said, he just hauls off, and even if he just pushes them, like, look, motherfucker, he push, and then, but you know, Ed Helms, like, we could go gory with this too, you know.
I got it. Oh, dude, you just light bulbs are fucking flashing. Okay, so So yeah, we see Pauly sitting in a chair in front of a little mirror, like it's a little tiny mirror. There's a little table in front of the mirror, and then we see Ed like open the door behind him and come and like clap him on the shoulder and do the whole thing where he's like taunting him. And maybe Ed like points his hand around. He's like, "Did you wonder, or did you happen to think like why you were in the room with a mop?" And we see like a janitor closet, like he's in a janitor closet, like there's a mop and a bucket and like one of those floor drains. And so now there's some water on the floor. So when they're pushing each other and Ed gets pushed, he slips on some shit in the janitor closet and cracks his fucking skull, like on the shelving where they keep all the cleaning supplies.
Nice.
So he's like doused in bleach and shit. But
oh god, yeah, that'd be awesome.
So yeah, so you know, Pauly maybe looks at him and he's like, "Yeah, buddy, you all right?" And like Ed is just like his neck is cocked to the like an unnatural angle. He's bleeding from the ears, like he's dead. It's like, oh shit, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Whoa, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. Yeah, so he's gonna like slam the door shut or whatever, like before, and then now he's gonna have this like panic moment where Pauly's like up against the door and he's just like hyperventilating and it's like, oh my god, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? And he's just like oh my god, and he's like, does he touch the body? Nope, don't touch it. And then back, and he's like pacing and chewing his nails, this whole sort of stereotypical thing. And then at some point he's gonna like look down at Ed Helms and he's gonna look up at himself in the mirror, and then he's gonna like get his facial expression is going to change from being panicked to like determined or like, no, this could work for me.
Yep. So now he has to dispose of the body. So we should have a scene where like maybe we see like the one of those racks of like wardrobe kind of outside of his little janitor closet dressing room. And like he goes out and like maybe he'll do something like I don't know if we want to have him dress up Ed in like a costume and do a fucking Weekend at Bernie's to get him out of the building, or if we, which would be really fucking funny.
It would.
Like maybe he like puts sunglasses on him and like puts him in a wig and he like kind of walks him out and like he's passing by like stagehands and grips and fucking good.
At some point, yeah, like Christina Applegate or somebody has to like stop him, like he turns a corner and like they almost bump into each other, and she's like, "Oh, hey, Pauly, Ed, how's it going? Ed, are you okay?" And the sunglasses and the hat, and then Pauly's holding him up. He's like, "Man, this dude just fucking loves to party, man. Like he's tying one on before we even get started. Like I'm gonna take him outside to get some fresh air." And then he walks away, and you see Pauly's face like, "Oh my god, I got away with it." But then you see like Christina Applegate going, "Fucking Ed all the time,"
Yeah, exactly. Like God, this guy can never be sober. Like just something like he's really this asshole that everybody gets.
Exactly. Just like asshole drunk, or just like fucking Ed passed out again.
So he walks about like he'll dispose of the body in some crazy way, like maybe he'll like shove him down a manhole or like put him in a dumpster or something like that. So he gets rid of the body, and then like we'll go back on set, have Christina shooting her shot. We could have a couple other scenes where Rusty would not be involved, right? And then have them try to call him to set and be like, "Where is he?" And then have Christina be like, "Pauly, you were the last one to see him. Where is he?" And then be like, "Oh man, we went out back to smoke a little doobage, and he's like, he kind of hooked up with this chick. Like I don't know who she was, but like they walked away together." And then again, like when he makes up this really unbelievable story, like totally fucking fabricated story, have Jonathan Goldstein like smack John Francis Taylor and be like, "I fucking told you this guy was horrible." Like he did this how many times on the first shoot? Like we should have recast like we always do with Rusty.
Oh yeah.
And then have Pauly be like, "Hey, I'm available." So,
yeah, and of course, they're gonna kind of like dismiss it at first. Goldstein's gonna be like, not you, anyone but you, whatever.
Right.
And they're gonna kind of go off like, we go find this Joker, and the scene, and we can kind of paint the picture here too, that the scene that they were setting up is like maybe they're going to do the big Thanksgiving meal scene, because we didn't really stop to explain it too much other than talking about James going home for Thanksgiving. But the idea here is very much like in A Christmas Vacation, when Chevy Chase as Clark wanted to have like the big Griswold family Christmas, at his house. Like he was going to take over from his dad as like the patriarch of the holidays, and that's kind of what the take on this is for the Thanksgiving movie. Is it's supposed to be Ed Helms as Rusty having the big Thanksgiving dinner at his house, like for the first time. Like Clark and Ellen aren't insisting that they are in charge, like they're passing the torch.
Right.
So maybe the scene that they're setting here is like, okay, this is the big Thanksgiving dinner scene where they're going to get all the actors to come in who are going to be in the movie. Get them all in early before something else can go wrong.
Right.
So, Christina Applegate is there and Chevy Chase is there and Billy D'Angelo is there, and they're all kind of milling around. But to your point, they were kind of shooting like, okay, let's get this one angle of Ellen first with like the turkey, or let's get this one angle over here. And we were supposed to have, all the sort of like, close in cut in shots before you do the big ensemble. And of course that all kind of fell apart. So we see everybody leave, and maybe it's like the next day. So maybe we just cut to Pauly at home in his like shitty little apartment, and we could just have this introspective moment when he's like, yeah, I'm gonna do this, like for real, like that. You see that in his thoughts where he's like looking around at his movie posters of all his old shitty movies, except he's the star of all these movies, like and that's kind of the difference. Is like you see him realizing, and silently, like with just his acting chops, you see him realizing that, yeah, like it's my time to shine. Maybe he takes that jury duty poster that was falling off and he straightens it out and retapes it and takes a step back and he's like, yeah, like we're gonna do this.
Absolutely. So yeah, no, I love that, because then we get the like his determination moment, even though he just killed a guy and disposed of the body. He's like, and he didn't just kill some guy. He killed a famous guy that's expected to be in a movie that he's in. So,
Yeah, exactly. Oh man. So yeah, so the next day it's like back on set, and Pauly Shore shows up, and he's not really supposed to be there, but he walks up to Jonathan Goldstein and John Francis Daley, and you see Goldstein just be like, hey, what are you doing here? Like, we already shot your scene, like get out of here. And John Francis Daley, he's a fanboy, he's like, oh hey Pauly, you came back, that's so cool, man. Totally fun if you just want to like hang out and watch, man, that'd be so awesome. And maybe it's like, maybe we can find another scene for your character to be in later, man, just chill. And and of course Pauly's going to be like, well, I heard that like Ed hasn't been around. Have you guys seen him? I heard he was like still missing. And they're like, yeah, he went off on that bender yesterday. It's cool. Like he always shows up eventually. We're just trying to get some shots of everybody else. And Pauly's gonna be like, well, if you just need like a stand-in for lighting or whatever, or I can play off of Christina when you do her close-ups, and I can help out. I'm here,
right.
And then John Francis Daley is like, oh, that'd be totally awesome. Yeah, just here, like memorize the lines, and you can just go do the reading with Christina, so she's got someone to talk to until Ed shows back up. That's gonna kind of be his in.
Perfect. Because yeah, we could have this be where he wins over Jonathan Goldstein. So it's like he could be doing the stand-in role, like you said, but he's given it his all. And like, let's be honest, like, yeah, Pauly Shore is a fucking doofus, but as we discussed, he made some fun movies in the 90s. So the guy actually knows how to act, and the character that we all know, the Weasel that he played in all of those movies, was a fucking character that a comedian created. I mean, the man is a comedian. So it's like, he created this character and that became his persona. So he has acting chops. So, and we're going to kind of remind people here. It's almost like how Quentin Tarantino always takes like actors that haven't been in anything in forever and then like gives them a chance to shine. And everyone's like, holy shit, like they're that good. Like, they just hadn't had a really good role yet. So we give him this chance to kind of like chew the scene as Rusty Griswold, playing off of Christine Applegate. And like, John Francis Daley's just sitting there smiling the whole time, and maybe have Jonathan Goldstein kind of like lean in and look like almost like he's noticing something for the first time. So we do the whole sequence with the him as the stand-in, and they cut. And then maybe have, Jonathan Goldstein tell John Francis Daley he wants to talk to them and have them walk off. And then we got to have another silly moment with Pauly. Maybe he goes over to the craft services table and he looks around and just starts fucking pocketing food.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Just sticking donuts and napkins and shit. And yeah, just shoving his face. But I was going to say too, I love this idea of getting to see Pauly Shore as an adult who's been around for a long time, play a character that isn't the Weasel, and I think that's awesome. It's a good way to approach it because that's what Jonathan Goldstein is going to see. He's only ever thought of Pauly Shore as the Weasel, so when you get to see him play a serious role, and even though Rusty is like a comedy character, but it's still like he's playing a real person. He's not playing some goof.
He's a family man, it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's a comedy role, but he still has to have heart,
Yeah.
which Ed Helms shows in the first movie. Like, yeah, Ed Helms, as we discussed off the air, he's cringy as fuck in many of those scenes as Rusty because the character's supposed to be cringy, but there's also a lot of moments where it shines through that he's a family man who loves his family, and I think that having Pauly Shore do that would be an eye opener for these guys.
Yeah, and the scene that he does, it should be one of these sequences where it's Debbie, Rusty's wife, where she's having the conversation with him that you saw Ellen have with Clark in some of the previous movies, where she's like, I know you try so hard, Sparky, and he's like, in this very serious voice, is saying like, yeah, I always wanted to do what my dad did when I was a kid, and have the big Thanksgiving dinner with the whole family. And it's this sober moment where he's kind of explaining, and so everyone is like rapt, everyone is like, you can hear a pin drop listening to Pauly Shore deliver this like heartfelt speech, and that's kind of, it was the perfect scene. If it had just been some slapstick thing, it would have been like whatever, just some other comedian, anyone can fall off a ladder, but it's
right,
like
exactly,
he gets to do this good scene. And I love this too, because this kind of goes back to the Charlie Kaufman twist, where not only does Charlie Kaufman as a screenwriter write these, kind of bizarre metafictional stories, but even though I know that he doesn't like direct all these movies, but he always ends up with actors that you wouldn't expect in these parts. Like the nebbish, nerdy puppeteer is like fucking cool ass John Cusack, and Charlie Kaufman himself is played by fucking Nicolas Cage of all people,
right?
And then in like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, like at the time, Jim Carrey had done some serious roles, but I think a lot of people were blown away by how serious that role was and how he fucking nailed it.
Dude, I totally was. Like, I was one of those people, because I hadn't really seen Jim Carrey do much serious stuff at that point. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind was kind of my first serious Jim Carrey role, where I was like, oh, holy shit, like he's really good.
Yeah, exactly. I think the first one that I had seen, and I had to look up like when these movies came out, but I think actually Man in the Moon predates Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Yeah, it definitely does.
It does. So does the Truman Show. But like, I remember the Truman Show is one of those movies I started to watch with my sister, and I got bored and walked away. It wasn't until like years later that I finally gave it its proper due, and I do actually like that movie a lot. But it like, I didn't see it early on like everybody else did.
Yeah. For me, Man on the Moon. I think I said it wrong before, but yeah, for me, Man on the Moon it's one of my favorite Jim Carrey movies. Period. Like, even when stacked up against all of his comedies, I absolutely adore that movie. And that came out like 4 or 5 years before. So even though he plays a comedian, but it's kind of like this, where it's Jim Carrey who is the comedian playing another comedian in real life, but that comedian was always playing characters, and he was actually this like really serious, like smart guy, Andy Kaufman.
Right.
anyway, back to our story. So yeah, I mean, this is basically the scene that nails it. And to your point, Jonathan Goldstein and John Francis Daly, they're going to have like a little conference, and they're going to offer Pauly Shore the part.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So of course, Pauly Shore is going to be, through the moon, and they're going to be, all right, well, let's just go ahead and get started. If Ed Helms is going to be like a flighty no-show, then, fuck that guy. Like, let's get back on set. Like, let's go, man. And this is where the next really weird ass twist is going to come in. So here's how I'm picturing it. And if you're picturing it differently, jump in, or we can, kind of settle on the one that works best. But what I'm picturing is, Pauly Shore goes back on set again. It's the big dinner scene, and they're still kind of doing, some like push-in shots or whatever. But now Chevy Chase, Beverly D'Angelo, they're all kind of come in on set and, kind of mill around waiting for direction. And there's a lot of voices. People are kind of talking, and, they're checking the lights and, whatever, the booms, and, the actors are kind of waiting. And you hear all this talking, all this chatter. And then you're going to start to hear this voice say something kind of like, hey, but like, it's kind of in the background, kind of muted by the din, right? And it's like, hey, me, hey, you, or like, hey, you. And again, it's, and you see Pauly Shore kind of look around like, someone calling me? Like, who, like, what is that? Like, he's looking at all the actors' faces and like they're all kind of talking amongst each other. We're focused on Pauly, and then, maybe he turns and he's like, what is that? And then then he hears it loud and the audience hears it. It's really up in the mix where it's just like, hey, over here. And you see Pauly Shore just like jump and turn and just instinctively lash out, and he fucking throws a punch and he punches Chevy Chase in the fucking jaw.
Wait, you know what? Let's save that. Let's say, because I got because there's a reveal moment that I was thinking about, but I love where you're going with this with the hey. Why don't we have somebody go like we have like we're seeing the actors kind of like mill about like you said, and maybe Chevy Chase like walks near Pauly Shore, and we hear that voice go fuck you, and it'd probably be like and look over to Chevy and be like, I'm sorry, what'd you say? And he goes, oh, I said fuck you. Because again, Chevy Chase, and he's notoriously an asshole,
Exactly.
and he would totally do that. So I'd probably be like, all right, and like have Chevy like shake his hand, all smiling after he just told him fuck you, and then like so maybe the whole time like they're doing the scene, he keeps hearing like, hey, what the fuck, what are you doing? Like he keeps hearing, he's like looking around, no one else hears it. So we play out the scene, have him go back to his dressing room, like, what the fuck? And then have him be like, hey, asshole, or like something like that, and have him look up, and this is where we get the reveal, like in the dressing room by himself.
Oh, okay.
So like he could look up, we see Ed Helms in the mirror standing behind him.
Oh, yeah. And we do that thing where he like spins around real quick and like Ed Helms isn't there. He's like, what the fuck? He turns around and in the mirror, now Ed Helms is like, bent over and he's just like, yeah, it's me, you fuck.
You fucking killed me, you asshole. Like, Ed, you stole my job.
Oh, this is a really, really cool like little conceit that I didn't even think about when we were kind of talking about this, before we got started recording, is it would be neat if you only ever heard his voice and we couldn't see Ed Helms unless there was like a mirror or glass or something. It would be a kind of a fun thing where,
like he could only see him in the reflection.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, they're on the set that's like somebody's house. There's like, china cabinets and windows and mirrors and, fireplaces or whatever. So there's going to be reflective surfaces. So yeah, every once in a while, we're going to kind of like have Pauly Shore turn and look, and you'll see Ed Helms' face, shining, in like the firelight off of the, like the glazed fireplace tiles or something all creepy, And I just think that adds like an element of creepiness to it. That, yeah, it's like fucking Ed Helms' ghost who's come back to, tell Pauly Shore to fuck off.
So like this whole sequence before they even go back to filming, like we could have Pauly like arguing with Ed, like have Ed be like, you fucking killed me, you asshole, and you stole my job. And he's like, I didn't mean to, like it was an accident. Like have him arguing, and then we should do like have like Christina Applegate like pass by his dressing room and hear him arguing with himself, and have her be like, oh, what the fuck, every time with these guys, like, or something, like every Rusty they cast is insane, something along those lines.
Oh yeah, she should definitely say that, right? Because you get like, what is it like? What's that guy's name? Galicki. What's his first name? The guy that from Roseanne who played Rusty in Christmas Story, or Christmas Vacation.
I forget his name, but yeah, I know
Johnny
exactly.
Johnny Galicki, right?
Johnny Galicki, yep.
He's on Big Bang Theory and shit.
And,
yeah,
and then there was Jason Lively from European Vacation. I forget the guy's name. Okay.
I was saying Anthony Michael Hall plays him in the first movie.
Yes, Anthony Michael Hall. But who's the guy who plays him in Vegas? I can see the actor, but I can't think of his name. He was in Empire
Embry.
Records. Yes.
Yeah, that's Ethan Embry. He was also in a really great movie when he was younger. He was in Dutch with what's his name? Ed from
Ed
Married
O'Neill.
Children. Ed O'Neill. Yeah, exactly. I love that movie. He was a really good child actor. Yeah.
That's a really good movie. But yeah, so we have Christina Applegate pass by, make her little comment. So the two of them arguing back and forth, and like Ed be like, do the whole thing of like, what makes you think you could do my fucking job? Like you're not a real actor, and have him be like, hey, they recasted Rusty in every fucking movie. Why should you get to play him twice? And they're arguing back and forth. And have Ed be like, if we were gonna cast anybody, it should have been Jason Lively. And then we have a ghostly Jason Lively like poking, like eating popcorn. Just be like, you really think so? And then have both of them like stop and look at him. And have Pauly go, are you dead too? And have him eat some popcorn and go, no. And they're like, okay. And he goes, all right, bye. And he just disappears.
For like no reason. Yeah.
Yeah. Just because I love Jason Lively, and that would be hilarious.
That dude is awesome. Yeah. That'd be it's so stupid. No, I love that. I love how like silly that is because like we're just like blurring the rules, and even have Ed Helms be like, huh, it's like. But yeah, and he's like, whatever. Anyway, back to this. Like, you gotta go, tell these guys like what happened. You gotta go tell them that I'm dead. Tell them where my body is. Of course, Pauly Shore's, now he's scared, but then he's gonna be like, no, I'm not doing that. Like, he's gonna, get his spine up and be like, I've needed a role like this for 20 years. I'm not giving up. This is my chance at my big comeback. And if anything, I need to pay my rent,
Right.
and of course, Ed Helms is like, I'm not going to let you get away with this. And Pauly Shore's like, what are you going to do? You're a ghost,
Like, yeah, you could do like the spooky, like the finger wiggle, like, you're a ghost, dude. Like, what are you going to do?
Exactly. And then you just see this like determined, like pissed off, like look in Ed Helms' face, like he doesn't say anything, but it's like, he's thinking like, oh, I'll show you, motherfucker.
Yes. And that's the thing. Like, we have Pauly leave the dressing room at that point, like, straighten up his shirt and kind of like walk out, head held high, shoulders back, and Ed just like staring at him from the mirror, like, you fucker, and have the door close. And then like cut back to set, because there's a joke here that I want to do with Audrey and Chris Hemsworth character Stone. So we let's have the scene where like the family is arriving to the house. So we shot all the like close-ups for the dinner scene and all that. So we have like, let's have Ellen and Clark show up and be like, oh, Rusty, get all excited to have them come in, have Skylar come home. Obviously, Kevin would still be living at home because he was much younger. Like, he's a teenager now. But then
we can even make this running joke where he never comes out of his room. Like, he's not actually in the movie.
Yes.
He's just always in his room, and you hear like metal and like, music, and there's like smoke coming out from underneath the door. And like, there's gonna be these scenes, throughout where we see Beverly D'Angelo as Ellen, and also Christina Applegate as Debbie, and they're gonna go try to like knock on the door, like, Kevin, honey, it's time for dinner, and then you just hear the music just turn up louder. That's all you hear,
Yes. That is perfect, because that's so in line with the character.
Yeah, exactly. He just doesn't give a fuck.
So like we have most of the family show up, but Audrey and Stone haven't arrived yet with their kids, because I forget the first kid's name, the little baby that they had. But whatever, they had him, but I want them to have more kids by this point. So they like, is Audrey here yet? And like, no, they're not here yet. And then we hear like a car backfire in the driveway, and have them open the door, and it's a big fucking camper. The thing that I want to have here is that Stone and Audrey are basically the new Cousin Eddie, because Stone was feeding his cows other cow, which gave them mad cow disease, and he sold them, which bankrupted him because of the resulting lawsuits. So now he's a fucking nobody. He's a nobody with a big dick. That's basically his claim to fame.
Oh, and we got to get that joke going. Like, even like when he gets out of like the shitty camper, and he's got like, this old, like, dirty, ripped up clothes, but you still have to have this like, fucking flashlight down the front of his pants. Like,
he should be wearing like gray sweatpants with a hole in it.
Yeah.
So there's just like, it's peeking out the hole every once in a while.
Oh, yeah. And you have to have, oh God, I don't even know who, but I probably, Christina Applegate as Debbie. Like, just, you have these scenes where you see he's kind of pacing while he's talking or showing the camper, and he's moving around, and it's kind of like she's like staring at that hole, like trying to catch a glimpse, and she's like, is it there? Do I see it? And then at some point, Pauly as Rusty is going to be like snapping his fingers like, Debbie, come on, you there?
We should have the same exact scene with Ellen and Clark, and have like, Ellen's just staring like with her hand on her chest, and have Clark put his arm around Ellen and be like, Ellen, what are you looking at? That oblivious Chevy Chase moment. But yeah,
of course.
And I want them to have a little girl that Stone named Pebbles, because his name is and have him argue and be like, yeah, my name's Stone, I'm the daddy, her name Pebbles, what's wrong with that? It's a good, strong Christian name.
Yes. Oh, and there's gotta be this joke too where like in the first movie, Leslie Mann as Audrey, she was joking or like basically begging him to like let me go back to work, like I want a job, and he's like, not under my roof, like he was
Yep.
just a manly man. And now while they're like talking, in this chatter, you're gonna hear Audrey complain that like, oh, like, and he won't even like get off the couch to get a job. I have to work 3 jobs. Like I'm at the market and I'm at the bar overnight, and there's no one ever around to watch Pebbles. And it's like now she's got too many jobs.
Yes. Well, I love this. I love that they became the new Cousin Eddie, and they're just all fucked up.
Yeah, I love it, and I love this idea too of like if you imagine the Raise Rentals audience like watching this movie, you're seeing the behind the scenes stuff with the IRL Pauly Shore, but then you're also seeing them film the movie in the movie. But then also we're going to see these scenes right here where it's like these are actual scenes from the finished movie. So there's almost like this layer, like we're zooming in, to these like meta layers. And I love this. So we can have all these like the funniest moments that you would get out of a Thanksgiving vacation movie without all the the talky scenes in between.
Right. So all the talky scenes are really just the actors making the movie and Pauly Shore having a fucking breakdown because he killed a man.
Exactly. And so, yeah, no, this is awesome. So we have this really great scene where, Stone and Audrey pull up as like the new Cousin Eddie, and I fucking love that. That's so perfect. And we're seeing the actual, movie scenes, but then at some point in the scene, you see Pauly as Rusty just be like, "I told you to fuck off," just. And then we do that like quote unquote like zoom out where it's like suddenly now we're seeing John Francis Daley in like the director chair, like cut, like what the fuck was that, Pauly?
Like he's looking through his script like that's not in the script, like
exactly. And then we can't pan back over to Pauly trying to like, oh sorry, blah blah blah, and then you just hear Ed Helms just cackling in his ear like, ha ha, you stupid motherfucker, like he's just haunting him this whole time, like he won't shut up, and Pauly's like trying to concentrate and he just snapped.
We should also have like after this scene like maybe everybody looks shocked except Chris Hemsworth, who just starts cackling, and then have like after the whole back and forth with the director, have Chris Hemsworth be like, dude, you were like my favorite actor as a kid, like I fucking loved you, and have Pauly just be like, oh fuck, I'm old. Like have one of those moments too.
Exactly. It's like I grew up with your movies, Oh man, that's awesome.
Holy shit. So we have like, we'll cut for like whatever scene, like we cut back. We're gonna have to have a couple more scenes of Pauly and Ed arguing back and forth, and like maybe he goes to the bathroom, he washes his face, he looks up, and Ed's in the mirror again, and he's like, would you fucking leave me alone? He's like, oh no, buddy. He goes, I'm here for the rest of your life. You took my life, I'm gonna take yours. And like they're just like arguing back and forth. And again, like maybe we could even do a callback and have Christina Applegate like pass by the bathroom and be like, the fuck is wrong with these Rusties? Like, just like, what? He's talking to himself in the bathroom. Like, what is he doing? So yeah, like we definitely, we don't got to go through every beat, but we would have several scenes of Pauly and Ed arguing, and it should get darker and darker as it goes along. Like Ed is starting to like make threats, and starting to like actually scare Pauly. So like he's getting real nervous, and like we saw at the start, like he's got his acting chops, but now he's fucking up because he's so scared.
Yeah. So this reminds me of in the movie Ghost, right? There's that scene with, I can't remember the comedian's name, but he plays this ghost in like the subway. He's trying to teach Patrick Swayze like how to touch stuff. You know who I'm talking about?
Vincent Schiavelli. He's in a bunch of shit from the 90s, but yeah, no, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, nice. So there's the scene where you learn that like ghosts like can't touch things unless they try like really hard, right? So that's just for like context. So yeah, while we have these interactions between Pauly and Ed get like darker and darker, again, we're going to go back, we're going to be filming a scene, and again, we're like, we're in the house, they're filming some scene in like the kitchen where Ellen is complaining about Stone and Audrey or whatever, there's something, they're having that one of those little moments, just the two of them while the rest of the family is wild. You hear like kids are screaming and yelling and running, and maybe Debbie says something about like, and will you try to get Kevin out of his room? Right. So during this whole sequence, you see Pauly sees Ed Helms in like the reflection, like there's like a mirror calendar magnet on the refrigerator or something. But he's seeing, so while he's trying to have this moment where he's filming the scene with Christina Applegate, you keep seeing his eyes dart over to the side. He's like looking at this like little mirror, and in the mirror you see Ed Helms, and there's like a butcher block, or it's one of those ones where it's like a magnet on the wall with like knives stuck to it, the butcher knives or like cooking chef's knives. And you see Ed Helms, and he's just smiling at Pauly, and he's trying really hard. He's concentrating, and you see him pull his hand back like he's gonna like grab this knife. And in the middle of this like talking sequence with Christina Applegate and Pauly Shore, you see Pauly just be like, no, and he jumps over and he grabs this fucking chef's knife and rips it off this like magnet holder. And now he's in the scene with this fucking big ass knife, and of course Christine Applegate's like, yo, what the fuck,
Like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Exactly. And then you see, like, in the reflection of the knife, you see Ed Helms just like busting a gut, like laughing. He's like, oh, you thought I was gonna touch that? I can't touch anything. I'm a fucking ghost, you idiot.
Oh my God, yes.
So now, of course, they're gonna have to like pull Pauly Shore aside and have like a talk. Like, what happened, bro? Like, you gotta like keep it together, man. And Jonathan Goldstein. It would be funny if Jonathan Goldstein is the one who's still like, no, like you can do this, and it's John Francis Daley who's like, yeah, like it was fun and all, but maybe we can move on. Like he's
kind of ruining the movie.
Yeah, exactly. Like his childhood hero is like fucking his whole movie up.
Yeah, and like you said, Jonathan Goldstein's like, no, we're already too deep into this. It's going to cost too much to reshoot, so we're gonna do this, or too much to recast. So they keep pushing forward with it, and so like let's I don't know how many more of these scenes you wanna cover, because like I'm thinking, like, do you want to jump to the end or do you want to keep going?
No, we're good. I don't think we need to do every scene in the movie within a movie. We did some of the bigger ones. We've kind of demonstrated how, Pauly's kind of like losing his mind a little bit. Now the directors are like, they pulled him aside, they're going to have this talk. And so now you see that they're kind of onto it, and again, we should kind of keep up the running gag with Kristen Applegate. It's just like, the curse of the Rusties or something, But just in terms of like actual scenes in the movie, I only have like one more that I want to put in somewhere. It could be actually like the very end, but somewhere close to the end. I just have one more, but it takes place. I wanted it to take place at Pauly Shore's apartment, like at some point when he like leaves the set. I want to do that, but then I think too we should. And now that I'm thinking about it, maybe it would make sense if this movie was just completely ruined, like very much like an actual Griswold Vacation. The movie that they're trying to make is just completely fucked because of the way Pauly Shore is acting, and all the other actors are like freaking out, getting scared, and hell, maybe Christina Applegate or whoever was in that scene with the knife just like storms off, like, I quit, call my agent, fuck off, and it's like, Jesus, Pauly, so the whole movie production just needs to fall apart.
Right. See, because I have a scene in mind for like what would completely destroy it, but Pauly would probably end up getting arrested. So that's where I was like, I don't know if you had any other scenes you wanted to do, because I have one.
Let's do that. Let's have him get arrested. That actually makes my scene better. Yeah.
Okay.
No, that's good. Yeah. Let's do
All
that.
right. So let's not have Christina storm off the set. Like, let's have her be like, what the fuck? Like, I need a minute. Like, have her walk away, because she's pissed, and then have Jonathan Goldstein kind of like building up Pauly, and John Francis Daley kind of like unsure. And the whole time they're talking to him, Pauly keeps like darting his eyes to like, I don't know, maybe there's like a reflective surface or something nearby where he keeps like looking, and we just see Ed Helms cracking up and pointing at him like, ha ha, fucker, and like the whole time he's hearing Ed laughing, so where they're like, all right, whatever. We have the whole cast here for only one more day. Let's get the dinner sequence shot. Let's do this. We got to do this, maybe. And one of the things I meant to mention earlier that I started, but I kind of forgot about, is that I wanted Chevy Chase to be a complete asshole to Pauly off camera. And then on camera, just be like the loving dad. So it's like we already had the fuck you moment, and have it be like, maybe before they shoot, have him walk up and like clap Pauly on the back, be like, you ready to film this, you fucking prick? Just in that like deadpan Chevy Chase kind of way,
Yeah. And like other people have to hear it too, because again, I don't know where you're going, but I still want to have Chevy Chase just get fucking socked in the nose. Like that needs to happen.
Oh,
like
absolutely. And but that's where I'm leaning up, leading up to that moment. But like have them do like they all get around the table and they're all getting ready to film. And Paulie is he's nervous at this point. Like he keeps hearing Ed laughing at him. Maybe like we do that thing where he looks up like before they call action. He looks up, he sees there's a mirror in the dining room, like over over like a big cabinet. Then there's like the china cabinet with all the dishes in it, so that's a reflective surface. There's like the silverware, like the silver platters and stuff on the table. There's reflective. So we see like Ed Helms' face everywhere, like laughing and pointing at Paulie, just taunting him.
yes.
So he's sitting there breathing heavy, he's getting a little sweaty, he's getting nervous, and they're like, all right, action. And then we have like Paulie like pick up his glass and he's like, I want to propose a toast to the Griswolds. And like he's like giving this like heartfelt speech. And the whole time like Ed is getting louder and louder, like, you can't fucking do this, you're a loser. And he's just like mocking him. And Paulie's just like, he's breathing heavy, he's trying to give his speech, and he's like, I'm not a fucking loser. And he turns and goes to punch what he thinks is Ed, and he socks Chevy in the face.
Yes.
And have Chevy like fall out of his chair and be like, what the fuck? Like just get knocked over, bloody nose, everything.
Yes. Yeah.
And now we have Paulie lose his shit. He's like maybe he grabs the turkey platter and throws it into the mirror, shattering. He's like, fuck you, I'll fucking kill you. I can kill a ghost, you son of a bitch. And like he's just losing his mind. Like, I'm the fucking Weasel, you asshole. I'm a Ghostbuster. Like he's just losing his mind. And of like everybody else cowering in fear, like what the fuck happened, And obviously, like that we would do like a hard cut with all the actors like being treated by paramedics, like they got blankets around him. Chevy's got like toilet paper up both nostrils, and Paulie's getting arrested. So we have like like dude just lost his mind and attacked the cast, and then like maybe we could have like that they found Ed, which is maybe that's what happens. Maybe the cops bust in on the set because they found Ed's corpse, and they Paulie's prints were on him, so they're like, they put two and two together and came for him. What do you think?
No, that's perfect. That's a good way to combine the climaxes here. I think this is perfect where we do exactly what you said, where Paulie is given this speech and he throws the glass down and punches Chevy in the face, and then just goes on this rant, and he's like throwing shit and like smashing the glasses on the table, and then he's he's yelling at Ed Helms. Like, I think it's great. He's like, I can kill a ghost, motherfucker. He's like, yeah, exactly. Like, I'm the fucking Weasel. But like, it's like, it sounds scary now. It's like, oh shit, right. I'm the fucking Weasel. It's like,
and he does that weird like, but he does it like slow and creepy.
Exactly. Like, I'm gonna munch you up, motherfucker. It's like, and he's just, maybe you see like he's pacing around the table and you're seeing Ed Helms' reflection in like the glass, the glassware and the glass, the china cabinet, whatever. So it's kind of this cool special effect. He's like, again, he's kind of pacing almost like in a circle around this table, while Ed Helms is like, he's still laughing, but he's also backing up, like, okay, maybe I pushed this, but he's still like, yeah, whatever, man. Like, you're washed up, like whatever, like a loser. Like, you had like one movie that was like, okay, I guess, whatever. And it's like almost as if Ed Helms is like, insults are less barbed now because he's like, okay, you can stop. Like, I might be getting a little bit scared too, Right? It's like, well, I guess that one movie was pretty good, or whatever. And yeah, and then Paulie is just ranting and raving and like just losing it. He's like turning into this Weasel character, and everyone else in cast is just like staring like in total shock. They can't do anything about it, and maybe a couple of people run off. But yeah, right at this moment, you see like the door of like the fake house set gets kicked in by a cop, and then the other cops run around the side because there's no fourth wall. It would just be this funny scene where a fucking cop kicks down like the fake door.
Yes.
Yeah, and these cops all run in and they're just like, freeze, put him up, Pauly Shore or whatever, and then have one cop be like, I can't believe I'm arresting Pauly Shore. Like, maybe I can get his autograph first or whatever, Yeah, just total chaos. Yeah, and it's like, they bust in, they arrest him, and then John Francis Daly and Goldstein run over there like, yo, what's going on? You can't just bust in here. It's like, yeah, well, somebody reported Ed Helms was missing, and so we came to investigate, and we found his body at outside or whatever. Like it wasn't even hard to find.
His hand was actually hanging out of the dumpster.
Exactly. um yeah, and so we go ahead and take Pauly away, but I want to insert a fun cameo here. I think it would be fun if everyone is they're taking Pauly away in handcuffs and have him look back at the set where the Thanksgiving dinner was, and like all of the actors are they've kind of walked away, or they're all off on the side talking to cops, and you see this one cop like in the scene by this table with all this, and the food's like fake, but you see him like pick up like a big turkey leg, and like he turns and he looks at Pauly while he's holding this turkey leg up. That's again obviously fake, and you see it's fucking Brendan Fraser. But it's like Brendan Fraser as like Link, from Encino Man, just like he did that cameo in Son-in-Law where he like eats that like formaldehyde frog, and so he just takes a bite of this like fake turkey leg and then like runs off. He literally just like runs off like you saw nothing.
Well, and the funny part about that is it could also be like you could then, as the audience, question: is he seeing things like because he's snapped? So like, did that actually happen, or is he just seeing it?
Exactly. Oh man, that'd be so funny. Yeah, and then you have them. Yeah, they take out Pauly in cuffs. They're gonna go put him in the car, and like for some reason, there's like a crowd of people, who heard the commotion at like the movie set, and you see Seth Rogen and like, yeah, put him away for life.
He's a dine and dasher. Does his laugh.
Exactly.
Like maybe he could like slap James Franco in the belly, be like, see, I fucking told you they'd get him, like something.
Exactly. Yeah, and maybe there's like Tobey Maguire or somebody turns to James Franco and was like, what are you doing here? Weren't you canceled?
Yes. Have James Franco just hang his head and walk away.
Exactly. Oh man. Yeah.
And hold on, have fucking Seth Rogen go, hey, Spider-Man. Just kind of.
Oh, and it would be funny if like Andrew Garfield just turns to say, he's like, yeah.
Yes.
Oh man, it'd be so dumb. Like all these.
Oh,
I love all the cameos.
It'd be fucking amazing.
So yeah, basically like the only other scene that I have, and again I was going to do it back in his apartment, but I think it works perfectly well, is like in the jail cell. So do you have anything else like, or I think we're kind of at the end. I think we can kind of move to that. So you mentioned off the air that you were thinking of doing something kind of like a Telltale Heart, where Ed Helms is the Telltale Heart. And as soon as you said that, I was like, oh dude, I have like this awesome scene I want to do. But also thinking about Ghost made me think about it too. The Ghost movie with Patrick Swayze. So we gotta have this like Tales from the Crypt ending where we see Pauly Shore in like a jail cell. He's just like laying on like a bench, and he's just like staring at the ceiling, and he knows that it's over. Like it's fucked. He completely fucked up his second chance. I mean, he's totally despairing now, and and like at first you don't hear anything because there's like music over the scene, like a sad song, one of those like slow emo versions of some old 90s song that would have been in one of his old movies,
Yes.
But then as the music fades and the camera is going to zoom in, like from the ceiling pointed down, like zooming in on Pauly Shore as he's like laying on this bench in the jail cell, you're going to kind of zoom in on his face. The music's going to fade, and then you're just going to hear Ed Helms going, "I'm Henry VIII, I am." It's like, I've been married 7 times before, or whatever, however that song goes. But it's like the one that Patrick Swayze was singing to fucking Whoopi Goldberg in Ghost to drive her crazy. And it's like, this is the Telltale Heart moment of Pauly Shore just listening to Ed Helms sing, I'm Henry VIII, I am, for fucking eternity.
He's just sitting in his jail cell, like, knees to chest, arms wrapped around, kind of rocking back and forth.
Yeah.
And every time he says I'm Henry VIII, he's like, I'm the Weasel. Just like
I'm the Weasel. I'm the Weasel.
Oh my God. And then
That's
like,
it.
oh my god, to
Cuts
keep in
black.
line with yeah, to keep in line though with the vacation movies, we like as the credits are rolling, and it could be this really somber music playing.
Hmm.
We see like Polaroids of like the film, but it's like a
Hmm.
Polaroid of like Pauly like stuffing a body in a dumpster. Like, and like we can have a Polaroid of like Brendan Fraser eating the turkey leg, looking all confused.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, exactly. And then maybe it would be really funny too if at some point like it's like a Polaroid selfie of like Seth Rogen doing like a peace sign, like he was
yes,
fucking taking pictures the whole time for some reason. Yeah.
there's a Polaroid of like Stone with his dick peeking out of the jogging pants, and both Beverly D'Angelo and Christina Applegate staring.
Oh yeah, yeah, hungry.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that'd be so
Oh my
awesome.
god.
And there's gotta be some scene with like Chevy Chase has like some like young actress like up against a wall, like trying to like mac on her while she's looking like super skeeved out, you know.
Yes.
But
Exactly.
of course, like as that Telltale Heart moment happens, and we have this like slow, like acoustic emo cover or whatever, and we zoom in on his face, and you hear Henry VIII, I am, and he's like, I'm the Weasel. You cut to black, and then it's Holiday Road.
Of course, dude. Wait, that could be the somber song. It
Oh
could be
yeah.
like this acoustic, sad version of Holiday Road.
Oh
Oh my
God.
god.
I gotta look up the lyrics real quick. Yeah. Oh God. I don't know, like, would be like it's
Oh
like
my
like
god.
you just a slow like Jack be nimble, Jack be quick, take a ride on the West Coast kick, but it would be all like sad and slow and acoustic.
And it would be like the young girl with the breathy voice, like take a ride on the West Coast, like that kind of thing.
Exactly. But then we got to kick into like the original happy version when we show all the Polaroids of like
Yeah, of course.
what a wacky time we're having.
Oh my god, dude. Like, I know I say this every episode, but Jesus Christ, I want to watch this movie.
I know. Yes. Come on, Charlie Kaufman, you have to write this for real.
Oh, I feel like this is one of those films. Like, out of all the films we've made up on this show, I feel like this one actually would be able to be made into a film. Like, I feel
Yeah.
like
Mhm.
this is one of those projects that I could see someone in Hollywood actually coming up with.
Yeah. Well, and that's why it was funny because you had mentioned this is the end, and I'm like, yeah, that's perfect. Like with Seth Rogen and Tobey Maguire and all these like sort of modern stars who are,
Mhm.
and I'm not to say that they're past their prime, but maybe past their moment of being like the new it actor, the new young actors in Hollywood. It's a decade and a half beyond Superbad and all that. So it's like I'm not saying Seth Rogen is like the new washed up Pauly Shore, but at the same time, it's like the same people who like that type of comedy would have loved Pauly Shore, and now it's like you can actually see them making this movie later on in life. Now that they're like big Hollywood hotshots, it's like
Right.
they would make this like weird ass movie about the Weasel.
Oh man, I would fucking love this. I would,
Yeah.
because again, I love the vacation movies as is, and to like take a vacation movie and do something so bizarre with it, but with so many fun actors, like my god, this would be a fun flick to watch.
Oh yeah, dude, the cast is crazy. And honestly, it reminds me a lot of the cast of the 2015 vacation movie because we already mentioned like the main players, but there were so many awesome cameos.
Oh god, yeah.
It was like there was like Keegan Michael Key and
Mhm.
Ron, oh, I fucking love Ron Livingston. Oh my god, loved him so much. Fucking like Nick Kroll and Michael Pena is amazing as always. It's like fucking even Colin Hanks at one point. I was like, I'm staring, I'm like, is that fucking Colin Hanks? Like really? And then of course even John Francis Daley himself has a cameo at the end. He's like the guy who is like running the ride, the
Yep.
roller coaster that they go on. So yeah, I loved watching the movie, just trying to like look at the other characters in the background and fucking Norman Reedus. It's like
Oh
it's
my
so
god.
yeah.
It was so good. One of my favorite jokes in that movie though is super subtle. It's when they're going to the hot spring, and I mean anyone watching this movie could see the hot spring coming a mile away that it's going to be
Oh
bad.
yeah. Mhm.
But when he's talking to the local who has the rat on his shoulder, and he goes, "What's your pet rat's name?" He's like, "What?" And he freaks out, but his reaction, he goes, "I don't know him," and he runs away.
I know.
Dude, I had to pause the movie. I was in tears.
Fuck it. I do. I was laughing too. I was like, I don't know him. It's such a perfect line. Like, not like, oh shit, a rat, but it's like,
I
I
don't know him.
He's not with me. So oh man.
Oh man, it was so fucking funny. Like, I did not expect that movie to be as funny as it was, because like I missed it when it first came out. I
Yeah.
remember seeing the trailers going, oh yeah, that looks good. I like the vacation movies, but I'm like, do I really care about a legacy sequel or requel? I'm like, maybe one day. And when we were talking about this and talking about the vacation movies, I was like, okay, finally have a reason to watch it. And my
Same.
God, dude, I was like, yeah, there's moments where it's like, ooh, that's awkward and uncomfortable. But so many of the jokes were fucking hilarious. Like when they first showed up at Audrey and Stone's house and they're trying to like wipe the spray painted dick off their car. and Helms is like, spit on the ball.
He's like, I got the head, you get the sack, It's like,
And they're spitting on their hands and rubbing it. Yeah. And Stone just goes, I don't like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my God.
Man. There were so many great scenes like that. I definitely think it was mostly successful. There's a couple of scenes, well, there's a couple of maybe sequences where I'm like, okay, this is getting a little bit like formulaic. It's like,
Yeah.
one more pratfall after the next, but yeah, I was super impressed with it. I agree. I had no interest in it when I first saw that they were remaking it, even though I like Ed Helms and Christina Applegate, but
Mhm.
mostly because I could just picture Ed Helms. All I could picture was his character Andy that he plays in The Office, and I'm like, that's all you were gonna get for like an hour and a half is the character of Andy. And I'm like, as much as I love The Office, Andy really gets old, like his like doofus, like brainless personality. And so I was expecting that, and that is exactly what Ed Helms did. And so yeah, I think I liked Rusty as a character the least, and I liked the stuff that was happening to him the least, but everything else that was happening to his family, and with Stone and everything else, I was like, this is definitely like underrated. I wish I would have seen it a long time ago. Yeah, for sure.
The Debbie Do Anything moment was fucking great too.
Oh my god, I know. I loved how like that was such a great twist because you're expecting it to be like, oh shit, like mommy's got some moves, but no, she just immediately fucking yaks everywhere and falls on her ass. It's so good.
She fucking face plants in her puke and then gets up and keeps going. It's like, oh god.
And then later on in the car, when like her look of like abject horror / like hangover, it was so good. It was just so perfect.
Oh man, yeah, no,
Yeah.
I really did enjoy that movie. One of the things that I couldn't stop laughing about was Rusty's explanation of what a rim job was, where he's like, it's a closed mouth kiss, like the rim of your lips, and then at the end, like when he goes, hope you're not too old to let your dad give you a good night rim job, as the other guy's walking up and he just turns around and walks away.
Yeah. Yes. Oh god, it was so it was definitely good. It was over the top, it was silly, but it was what you expect, I think, from a vacation movie. And yeah, I think maybe laughed more in that movie than I have at any of the other vacation movies, like actual genuine belly laughs. Like they fucking nailed the humor for sure.
Oh hell yeah, dude. It's totally underrated. Like I don't hear enough people talk about it, but this, I would love this.
Me too. I want to see Pauly Shore's Thanksgiving Vacation this year.
Right?
Add it to the rotation. Oh, this is so fun. Yeah, this was definitely. I think we did it, Mike. I think we pulled it off. I think we were successful in doing a podcast episode about a screenwriter writing a story about a real celebrity making a fictional sequel to a movie where the main character is haunting him like the Telltale Heart. Like there's so many layers. I think we pulled it off though.
I would say this is probably one of our strangest concepts, but
yeah,
I had a blast. I think this is. I was looking forward to this episode. Once we kind of landed on the concept, I had no idea where it was going to go, other than like a few story beats. And man, I had fun. I thought this was a really fun episode.
Me too. Yeah, I love this one. Yeah, this is definitely another one where we had to do some prep work just to make sense of it all, like to mentally make sure the pieces were in place. But man, it was not only was it a blast, but it came off so smoothly. Like we went through it. pretty quickly. Everything seemed to be gelling. I don't think we really had any moments where we were like, oh fuck, what do we do now? I think we tend to do that at least once in most episodes, but this one was just like we knew exactly where to go next. And yeah, I loved how naturally it came, seeing as how complicated the overall pitch was. Like, you can't explain this to somebody, in like an elevator pitch,
Right. I actually tried to explain, because one of my coworkers has started listening, and she asked me what we were going to be doing for Thanksgiving, and I said, I don't know how to explain it exactly. I said it's going to be a sequel to the 2015 Vacation movie, but it's about the making of the movie and starring Pauly Shore, but it's kind of horrific. And she was like, what? And I was like, you'll just have to wait and see, because I don't know the full story yet. I just know the concept.
Yeah, and that's what's so fun about this show. That's what makes the show fun for me, at least. Is
Oh, hell yeah.
I love just it's like a challenge. I love the challenge of throw down the gauntlet of like, see if you can make this work, motherfuckers, and just having some fun with it.
Yep, and we will be doing something like that again in December, which I'm excited to see. But that one's going to be a little scary because we aren't going to know shit ahead of time. It's going to be frightening. So, but I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited.
Yeah, for sure. We've been saving that one for the end of the year, not just because it's the Christmas special, but also because it's the single hardest like blind challenge we've ever done. Where it's going to be similar to our Mousetrap episode, the Whose Improv Is It Anyway, but even harder. And that one was wacky because that was a story told through a randomizer, but this one's going to be even worse. So I'm definitely scared for it, but I'm also really, really excited because I can't wait to see what kind of like wackiness comes out, because that Mousetrap episode was fucking bizarre, just like the one we did today.
But it was so much fun. And I think that's the thing. Like, as much fun as I had with our Trick or Treat episode last time, because it was just a fun story, and being a huge fan of Trick or Treat, I want to see a sequel, and I'm excited that they're making one. So that was fun. But I love when we can do these types of episodes where they're so strange and bizarre, and I'm like, I don't know where it's gonna fucking go, but let's go. Let's try.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of fun.
Yeah,
but
totally agree.
December's going to be cool, but we still have one more before that. So
that's right. The next episode is going to be more of a return to form. It's going to be a straightforward horror story, probably a movie, where we're going to take something that should have been better and we're going to actually improve it. We're going to improve it, which is what we started off doing in the first place when we started the podcast. So it's going to be, like I said, a return to our old school style. I won't say easy, but one kind of like simple reprieve before we dive into the fucking meat grinder of the Christmas special. And then when we come back in 2024 for our season 3, we have a couple of non-horror, non-spooky topics, so we can kind of like, lay off on the darkness a little bit, but not for too long, because there's already a scary one on the list that's going to come pretty early. So, but I am looking forward to having some more guests on the show as well. So the next handful of episodes, I think, are going to be pretty awesome.
Oh, hell yeah. Totally agree.
So with that, thanks everyone for tuning in to the Raised by Rentals program. You can find us online at raisedbyrentals.com and at Raised by Rentals on all the socials. We belong to the Rad Pantheon, a super team of podcasters, artists, musicians, all kinds of creative people supporting each other to help spread the gospel of rad stuff. So if you like this show, there's a great chance that you'll dig one or more of the other Rad Pantheon teammates and their creative endeavors. So check that out at radpantheon.com and at Rad Pantheon on the socials. What did you got, Mike?
Check out The Boogeyman's Closet. It's one of my other podcasts. I'm also part of the Rad Pantheon, but Boogeyman's Closet on both Facebook and Instagram. We are currently on a pause, so by the time you hear this episode, there's only going to be one new episode coming this month. But we do have our return to form in December with Christmas Horror Round 4. And we have some doozies on there, so I'm excited to cover some of these flicks. But yeah, check that out. And also Count Creepyhead Saturday Morning Monster Mash, Creepyhead with a K, also on Facebook and Instagram. And that's just a wacky show where 3 grown man children talk about toys and bitch about pop culture.
Yeah, it's always a lot of fun. You guys had some cool guests on a recent episode, so that was pretty cool. And Mike, I haven't voted for the Christmas horror yet because I haven't seen any of those movies. So
there's some good ones on there. I think you need to watch Violent Night. I think out of all of them, you'd like that the best.
Violent Night is one. It's on the list for sure. The only reason I haven't watched it yet is we missed it when it came out, and I've just been waiting for like Christmas. And lately we've been getting Griffin to watch more scary movies, just like I started with Tegan several years ago, who's now 16, but we kind of eased into scary movies. Both my kids started a little bit later. Now Griffin's 11, and we've been kind of going back to hitting some of the classics. We just watched Alien yesterday, the original, and he loved that. So that's kind of been taking up our movie watching time. But for sure, when we get to December, Violent Night is on the list. I can't wait to see it. So I definitely want to see that one. But in terms of the other ones, I don't know, man. I almost want to say like fucking take my vote as like a Hail Mary for a tiebreaker or something. I don't know because I'll still be listening, but I don't know, man.
I'll be honest, I'm shocked by some of the ones getting love. I really thought Silent Night, Deadly Night 4 was going to get a lion's share of the votes. It's gotten 1 vote. And I do think Naked Clint Howard is a deterrent for most people.
No, thank you.
But yeah, I was surprised. Like fucking Ugly Christmas Sweater, Ugly Christmas Sweater Party, and or Ugly Sweater Party, whatever it's called, and Christmas Cruelty are both getting a lot of the votes. And I'm like, I haven't watched either of these. I've just read about them and watched the trailer. And I know Christmas Cruelty is all it's dubbed because it's a foreign film. But yeah, both of those are getting a lot of love. So I'm like, shit, all right, maybe we'll be covering some weird flicks this month. But any of the picks I would have been happy with. So I'll be honest, the one I really want to watch is the Mean One. It's the David Howard Thornton Grinch slasher movie, where he plays the Grinch, and is the guy who plays Art the Clown. So I'm like, I want to watch it, but I know it's gonna be like, I heard it's really low budget and cheesy, but the kills are great. So I was like, I don't care. Like we're at the bottom of the barrel with Christmas horror at this point. So fuck it.
Yeah, you might not even be able to do a Christmas one coming up pretty soon. Like you're gonna run out of creepy Christmas movies eventually.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, yeah, so I'll definitely check those out. Yeah, I'll go play some votes. But anyway, thanks once again for joining us. Visit us on the socials, drop us a line, leave a comment, leave a rating. Let us know what you think we should improve next time. And with that, I'm Josh.
I'm Mike.
And we have to return some videotapes, buddy.
If you're edge because I'm wheezing on your grind, it's just chill. Because if I had the whole Brady Bunch thing happen at my pad, I'd go grind over there. So don't tax my gig so hardcore, Cruster.